And it was 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm staring up to this to the ceiling, and Amy's like, "Why can't you sleep?" And I'm like, "Babe, I can't. I have to come off payroll, and like we just got to be really careful on Christmas presents this year." The next day, a very very dear friend of mine, who was actually the father of the family that owned the restaurant that I was working for up here, they wanted me a business partner with them. They wanted me to go build a restaurant empire with them, and I literally quit to go do this, right?
Yeah.
He and I have at that time probably haven't seen him for 6, 8 months. We're really good friends, and he just showed up one day to our soap shop, and he said like God told me to, and he gave me an envelope. He said, "I want you to go take, here's some stuff to go get the kids Christmas presents."
Just
Yep.
kind of curious. I believe that, people that make massive changes, I look at it and I dissect it and I go, well, what is it? What happens? And I know that power comes from a lot of decisions that people have made. I know we can all look back several years ago, 5, 10, maybe even 30 years ago, and say, man, that one decision totally changed my entire trajectory to where I'm at today. And I'm kind of curious, what's your earliest memory of what put you on this path that is heart centric versus becoming the wolf of freaking Wall Street? Whatever it takes, man. Let's go find a way to get, that money from other people's wallets. Why are you such heart-centered entrepreneur, this conscious capitalist that finds a way to make the world a better place, and you do well financially along the way? So, what was that earliest decision you can remember that put you on that path?
January 2011.
Wow. Okay, you all right. What was on January 11, 2011?
So January of 2011 was that inflection point for me. Up until so I came up in the restaurant business in New York City,
Mhm.
chef, restaurateur, either for others or myself, built about 50 restaurants in New York City, and
50.
about
Oh,
50. Yeah.
oh,
And so
jeez.
I worked for some large corporations, from Food Network stars. It was a riot. It was a blast, and it was a lot of fun, at times very lucrative, but it was very shallow
Hmm.
and it wasn't very fulfilling, but I was pretty good at it.
Hmm.
And I went off on my own in 2007. I started doing really well until the banks crashed at the end of
Hmm.
2008 and 9 and got an incredible education, lost everything, moved to Michigan in 2010, kind of hit the restart button, stayed in the restaurant business from an advisory role, became friends with some customers at this restaurant that I was, group that I was a CEO at. And at the time, I was looking at some different opportunities, and I really felt like I was done with the restaurant industry. I wanted to be a great dad. I wanted to be a great husband. I wanted to do things that mattered. Now it's conscious capitalism. It used to be called triple net investing back in the day.
Yeah.
Triple, like, for those who don't know, like, people, environment, and profit. It's not just about making money. It's about leaving people better and leaving the environment better. And I gravitated to that. Um, and I was, really thinking about I met this grandma selling soap at the farmer's market looking for an investor. And I was really warring whether I should do it or not. And I was praying and pressing to God, like, if I should really do this or not, and just really having this internal dialogue and debate. And late January, I was in the restaurant, and a buddy of mine, who, at the time we were going to Bible studies together and good friends, he said, "Stephen, I felt like I got a word for you that you need to hear." And, I was, my antenna always like
Yeah.
2 weeks forward. But I've never shared this, by the way. This is the first time I'm actually sharing this. And his name's Dave, and he says, "Stephen, I feel like I need to tell you that an eagle is not meant to walk, but for so long." Like, okay, what do you mean? And here I was, like, doing really, really well, and, financially, I was back on my feet again after losing everything, and
Hmm.
things were kind of chill financially at home, was they weren't for a few years at that point. And he said, "I just feel like God wanted me to tell you that it's time for you to fly again and take some risk, and He's got you." And I'm like, and so at the same time, I was really struggling with, if I should go back on my own, because I feel like, Ted, I was diagnosed as a child genetically unemployable. So I've been an entrepreneur at heart for a long time.
Mm, yeah.
Um, and so I'm like, that was it. And then so I looked at this opportunity, and
But wait a minute, but the decision, there's got to be something behind, like, just because someone says, "Hey, I think it's time,"
well,
was
I was
is that
warned
all
with
it
this.
took was for
That's
you
it.
to say,
It was time to fly again. And
and it spoke to you in a way that it shook you to the core, like, I know.
I went home and I said, babe, I talked to Amy. I said, babe, I got to go. And of course,
Oh no,
now
that
after
sensation.
taking going following the ride to zero once, and she's like, "Are you serious?" I'm like, "I
Yeah.
just got to do this." She goes, "What do you know about soap?" I'm like, "I don't know, but I'm gonna figure it out."
Mm,
And so it took a while for us to make that move and transition. So it worked out to be, just about a year later that I finally like walked away from the career side of it, went all in, bought the soap company, didn't know anything about it. Resonated with the story, right? Because it meant so much to me. Eco, non-toxic, organic was our lifestyle because our oldest son, when he was an infant, got sick because of laundry soap. So it was very, aligned with me. And I just saw how toxic the world was. And I said, I'm just going to go all in. And
wow.
so we did. So I quit the jobs, the advisory, the board work, and I just bought this soap company that was really crushing it. It was doing $100,000 a year in business,
Yeah, really crushing it.
really
Yeah.
crushing it. Right.
Yeah.
And so, it was
Yeah, let's just say the profits from that business versus what you were getting paid as a consultant significantly, a nice
yeah,
step backwards.
yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. 50 steps backwards. And
Yeah.
so in our early years, so anyway, so it was to me, Ted, it was like, I just, I wanted to wake up every day knowing that I was doing something that was going to leave this place better than I found it.
Hmm.
And, the restaurant industry, although lots of fun and able to be very creative, like it's a very shallow experience, right? Like you're on stage and you're only
Mhm.
as good as your last failure, and you really can't impact. So I just said, you know what, it's not what I want to do. And I felt like God had something different for me. So and he told me this soap company, so I went all in. In our early years, we failed at absolutely everything. Commercial cleaning products, retail. I tried so many different verticals, and we failed at everything. So from 2012 through 2015, we literally were doing about 100 to $125,000 a year,
Mhm.
and everything that I
He was
saved up.
doing better at farmers markets, or as good as you were, with your brilliant consult. What's wrong?
And it was a nightmare, and we failed at everything.
Wow.
And so
That's,
now, fast forward to literally a decade ago now, like this week.
yeah.
So right now, this is December
20th. Yeah.
20th, right? And there's recording. So the right around Christmas of 2014, a decade ago this week, for the second time now, we're back on food stamps,
Ooh. Ooh.
right? For the second time. And
Because
Amy's like,
that was a 2007 8 era. That was not that far away. Your wife meaning
oh
I
no,
know how the wife has a memory. I'm assuming your lady has the memory like my lady has. It was yesterday. Why are we always, making ends, that energy. I can only fathom
it was no
that's in
joke,
your
right?
ear.
And I remember waking up literally, it's like a year, it's 10 years ago, probably like today.
Yeah.
If I really were to pin it down and it was 2 o'clock in the morning, I'm staring up to the ceiling, and Amy's like, why can't you sleep? I'm like, babe, I can't, I have to come off payroll. And, like we just got to be really careful on Christmas presents this year, right? We just
Yeah.
can't Christmas presents this year. And the next day, a very, very dear friend of mine, who was actually the father of the family that owned the restaurant that I was working for up here, they wanted me a business partner with them. They wanted me to go build a restaurant empire with them. And I literally quit to go do this, right?
Yeah.
And I have at that time, probably haven't seen him for 6, 8 months. We're really good friends. And he just showed up one day to our soap shop. And he said, like, God told me to, and he gave me an envelope. He said, I want you to go take, here's some stuff to go get the kids Christmas presents. Like,
He was inspired out of the again. What's
so Ted, I could share so many
but we all
crazy
can share
stories,
these. I'm
right?
trying to find a way to communicate how
And
grace shows up when your commitment as a human being, so I call it good for you, good for others, good for the greater good. I think that scrubbed off on me, if memory serves me correctly. I don't want to give credit to the wrong person, but I think it was Tony Robbins back when I was partnered with him. I think that's his language. He would say it's good. When is it good for you? When is it good for others? And when is it good for the greater good? So you give it different names. You're saying it's called conscious capitalism today, but that's the filter from which I was operating. And a lot of people talk about it, but it feels a little esoteric at times. And I'm trying to unpackage how grace shows up when you're in service to something greater than yourself, and that when you have the courage to act in alignment to the virtues that you're drawn towards, the reward is exponentially greater than any tactician who's doing it for the cash game. And I'm for that. And I want people to understand that a little bit more. I think sometimes because they're in fear or doubt, maybe their ladies in their ear going, honey, you're telling me I can't get Christmas gifts? And you're like, but trust me, we'll find a way. It'll work out. Like, or maybe you succumb to the idea that maybe we just won't have Christmas gifts this year. And then boom, next, your buddy from you haven't talked to in months shows up with, here's some money, go buy the kids a gift. Like I'm getting a little choked up. It's all right. I'm a bit of a crier at times. People have followed
Oh
me
yeah.
occasionally,
No, I
so I'm a very passionate guy. People sometimes get confused because you're from were you from Michigan and went to New York, or are
no,
you a
I
New
was
Yorker in
from
heart?
the South Bronx. My wife's a Michigander, and
So
we
you are
vacation in
from
northern Michigan.
New
Oh, I'm
York, that area, the Bronx.
inner city Bronx punk kid for sure.
Yeah, so I'm a burb of Chicago, born in Hammond, Indiana, and then we
Yep.
did the thing. We kind of moved. My parents were broke because they were kids when they had kids. And so when my mom and dad were kids, my age of my son and my daughter, they were raising children and they were in the ghetto. And my dad made a decision, even though he couldn't afford it, something spoke to him. It's like, get out. Like, go do something you can't afford to do. And you probably don't know how you're going to find a way to afford it. Just get out of the ghetto. And I think that move saved me because I could have been just rebellious enough to become a part of the environment, but
Yeah, sure.
I chose to fight the good fight, and I chose it to be a fight. You can look at that face of that teenage kid. You can see
Mm,
like there's love in the heart, but is that's full of muscle. I'll take you down. Let's go.
I get it. I
Yeah,
get
let's
it.
got to survive. So I call that energy when people pick up on it, Chicago Teddy, and then sometimes they're confused when they see Chicago Teddy crying is this. I'm living for this. Like I found my life calling in this, and I've helped a million people before with my other partnerships, and I want to do that with these book series and the way I'm going to communicate with society to
Mm,
convince the entrepreneurs that yeah, if you can fully embrace this concept and if you can understand it, and that's what I'm trying to unravel a little bit, is there's a balance between this heart and this mind game. Like there's this balance that I've witnessed, and I don't know if you seeing it. It's like there are plenty of those people that say they want to save the world, but they never seem to change much of anything. They're just fully heart centric, but they're broke as a joke. So like, what was my hallucination without talking to you is that your skill, your head came from the grind called the most I was going to say malicious, but it's a really cutthroat industry. I mean, restaurants can be ugly. There's a dark energy to it. I mean, if you watch any documentary of what it means to be a chef, it's usually not the most like supportive, loving environment. It's very much a grind, like, right?
24, and it never stops. It's a never ending
Go, go,
grind.
go.
Yeah.
Adrenaline, your adrenals are constantly taxed, and you're never slowing down enough to clean those out. So you're just always on tilt. So it's like, okay, well, I'm just kind of curious, what is it? Was that what got you street smart? Or did how did you find the balance between this and this? Because just any one
Well,
of
to
those
me,
to an extremity
it was
causes
faith,
you to
right?
fail.
I mean, I didn't grow up in a faith environment, and faith in that greater good, and faith is what changed my life. And I guess my biggest modus operandi is when I take my last breath, whenever that is, when I take my dirt nap, like I just want to hear my father say, "Good and faithful servant. You've done what I
Good and
told
faithful
you to do."
servant.
Right? I just want
I
to,
want to know I was put to work today, you know.
I've kept my hand to the plow, and I've never been a sluggard. I've always been a hardworking dude. And, I'm also a very intentional dad and husband too. Like I'm not
Yeah.
sacrificing my family for a career. But I want to know like that I'm serving the Lord with everything that I got. And to me, this is my ministry, right? Truly free. And our businesses, like this is my ministry, and it is the marketplace. And then, like from that, that December of 2014, and then what came out of that, because we were done, like
Yeah.
done. This little soap business. What came out of that was I felt like I should build a website and go into e-commerce.
Hmm.
And I didn't know anything about web or e-com or anything, and we had no money, so I started that January of 2015 in a frozen corner of a warehouse. We couldn't even afford to keep the heat on. And I taught myself how to build websites and write copy and like sell stuff online. And we were just about to launch this website. And I was curious how much it cost to ship. Now it's like spring. It took me a few months to like build the first
Yeah.
site. And I was curious. So I went to the post office. I was curious how much it cost to ship 50 ounces, 4 pounds of laundry soap around the country, and it averaged $14, and we're planning on selling the product for $15. Like, this is the
Uh-oh, got a problem.
this is the go out of business strategy, and I proved I could do this before. So what the heck do I do now? And I just spent 5 months like learning this new craft,
Hmm.
buying every course, reading every book, watching every YouTube video, right? Like, how do you do this stuff? And what came out of that again was, this idea of refillable cleaning. Like, why ship water and this
Yeah,
plastic is going to the ocean?
that's right.
So then, necessity was the mother of invention, and we created the world's first refillable cleaning system, and it's called My Green Fills. And then lots of pivots in our early years, and then we really found our stride a few years later, still grinding. I mean, we found our new identity in 2019 as truly free, and
That took you only 3 years with that new identity, 5 years from that moment to be on what was that? The cover Inc. identifying you as one of the most remind me of what that was on Inc. It was a couple of years.
influential entrepreneurs at 23,
Yeah,
uh,
2022. Yeah, right. It was
22, yeah,
yeah,
22.
yeah.
So,
That's a quick
and
turnaround in just a handful of years. I mean, everyone has a dream to grow from 0 to 100 million, but rarely do people accomplish such a feat. And it's great to hear you talk about, all those wartime victories. But I want to talk about that dematerialization to some degree. It was like all this weight, it's cost $14 to ship it. So it was like necessity became the mother of invention there, it sounds like, as you've just found a way to, how do I minimize my cost, turned into this profound, unique selling proposition, which is great. Let's not ship the plastics, and let's not ship the water. Let's just ship concentrate in lightweight plastic refillables. So we just send the plastic once and you refill it, right?
yep,
So I don't always use your products. First of all, I don't do the laundry, but we don't only just use you as well. There's whatever your competitor is. I think I met him at a TNC event, a digital marketing traffic
yeah, yeah.
conversion. He was the one that has the cut up the paper thing. I
The
don't know if you
sheets,
know him.
like
Yeah, they're little
the
sheets. You cut
sheets,
them into
yeah.
little. Yeah.
There's a few companies that
Yeah.
do that.
So I
Yeah,
know my wife
yeah,
uses them as well. So it's like,
yeah,
don't
it's
hate
good.
on me. We're
No,
we're
it's
we're
great.
hippies, man. I'm a freak. Like, people think I'm weird, but I'm gonna live to 120. I'm really committed to it. And like you, I won't bother to tell stories like that. But your story that's on your guys' website, trulyfreehome.com. Is that your site, right?
It is, yeah.
Yeah, when you talk about, your how you came. I hope you guys find the video and listen to him share his own story and his own journey with his child. Like nothing's going to motivate you more than thinking you're causing harm to your own children. Nothing's going to inspire you more than that. And I know one of my early decisions. Why am I focused on the heart of business today? Is watching those that I love when I was a child suffer. The closest person to me was my cousin John John. He had leukemia, a very young age, 12. I'm 13 years old. So what's the meaning of life? Like that real quick. And before that, my brother closet, it's uncle. It sounds weird to say, but brother uncle, when my mother's a teenager having kids, grandma is 30s having another child.
Mm.
That technically was my uncle, even though my sister is older than her uncle. Because that's what happens when you pop out babies as a teenager. And but he went into the system, when you're in the hood and you have problems and you're dysfunctional and you can't, and the state takes your kids away, at some point, I think at 20 whopping 3 years old or something, my mother decides, I think I'm going to get my brother in this house because it's an ugly system thing. My heart real quick goes, okay, life can be tough for humans. How do we make it
Yeah.
less tough? And
Yeah.
and I chose to, not everyone does it. I wasn't brought up in a faith-based home. My cousins were rooted in that. But from that pain, that extreme pain, both my father and I, we knew we needed something. My sister and my mother didn't see it, but we're like, we need something. And we know there's something greater than ourselves. So let's go get baptized. Let's declare ourselves. And we just did that together. He and I just chose to go do a thing because we knew there's something bigger and better than us. And I think there's a problem with people that are smart. My father was smart and I'm smart. We miss out on some opportunities. A lot of my partners, I'm not saying they were stupid. They're very street smart, some of the smartest minds in the world. But if you put them on an IQ scale, they're not as high of IQ.
Mm.
And the reason I think they succeeded more so than I have to date is they take action quicker. Whereas intelligent people can see the trauma that's going to come ahead. They can see the risk that's involved. And so if you pause to mitigate the risk, you lose the power of taking action in the moment. And so those that are smart have, an opportunity to leverage faith and listen to the universe serendipity, whatever you want to call it, the message you've got. It came in from David. You had it coming from, previous partners
And
trying to recruit you. You're paying attention to it. A lot of people will hear it and ignore it, right? And I'm trying to help people understand it. So I'm just kind of curious, how do you balance between this and this? You said faith allows you to follow your heart, or how do you filter following this? How do you make sure this intellectual, my intellectual mind says this is a bad decision because of that. It does not math out. How do you navigate between the balance between the two so you don't just go do something completely stupid in the name of and just burn it all down? So how do you
yeah.
balance it?
Well, you know, I'll put it this way. I think everyone knows what a GPS is, right? And
Global
everyone,
positioning satellite. You're talking about a system that lets me know where I'm at. Are we talking about that
yeah.
GPS or a different one? Okay.
Well, we all know how that works, right? You plug in this destination,
Hmm.
and are trusting that this machine is going to get you to that end point. So say,
Yeah.
hey, Siri, give me directions to this end point, and then you have turn left, turn right, go straight, quarter of a mile, la la la. But imagine if, you're listening to your phone telling you what to do on this path that
Hmm.
the GPS is saying to go, and you've got the radio blasting and the windows are down,
Hmm.
right? How easy is it for you to hear those instructions? And then the machine's constantly like in the state of recalculating, right?
Hmm.
Make a U-turn, turn around, oh, turn up, and you're in this bl- point of it take you a lot longer to get to that end destination.
Yeah.
Well, I look at GPS as God positioning system,
Hmm.
and when I set an intention like, hey, this is where I want to go, and this is where I feel like I should be going and heading,
So
I
you
like
say my intention, I consciously choose it. I make a conscious commandment. So you
and
start there in the head. This is the goal. This is the outcome. I have an intention. So
and
how do you
and
leverage the
and
GPS
and
there?
I feel like this is where I should be going. And then it's up to me individually to make sure that all the worries of life and the noise and the distractions of life, i.e., the radio blasting and the windows down,
Yeah.
we tune out intentionally all that noise to hear that calm, still voice, turn left, go straight, turn right, and here's the path to get to the destination.
Do you do
Where
that monthly? Do you do that quarterly? Do you do it annually? Do it weekly? Do it daily? How are you using your GPS?
almost hourly.
Hourly. So
I
a
mean,
lot of people talk about rituals, and then people hear hourly, they check out like, I don't have the time to do that shit. And then you're like,
um,
yeah, but you don't have the time to try
well,
to
we do it
react
anyway.
to the
Like again,
U-turn.
like hey, like you're listening to what I'm saying now. It's like, hey, what's for dinner tonight? It's like, oh, well, we're making this. Okay, got it. Well, you've fully envisioned what's for dinner, and oh, I got to stop at the grocery store to get these other two ingredients, and
Hmm.
you already like mapped out and envisioned spiritually what dinner is going to be like before you ever start the pan on the stove.
Yeah.
Well, what I'm saying is like we do that. We should do that in life, right? With all things, right? In our careers, in our life, in our marriages, our parenting, whatever that is. Like, you know, here's, here's what I envision like my marriage to be like in 6 months, or my,
Hmm.
here's what the relationship I want to have with my kids in the next 3 weeks, or, and like, hey, here's the things that, oh, I got to stop instead of stopping at the grocery store to pick up butter. It's like, hey, I need to like spend some intentional time with this kid
Hmm.
on this date in order. So it's just, again, I think it's just about intentionality. That which you focus your energy on is where, is what will grow. And, people spend a lot of time like, I don't have time for that shit. Well, how much time do you dedicate watching a screen of wealthy people in a fantasy world, like occupying your brain space?
Hmm.
Well, you don't have time for that either,
Yeah.
right? You shouldn't make time to zone out. You should be making time to zone in. We have time. It just depends on what we put our intention on.
Right.
We spend our time on a Sunday watching a bunch of dudes throw a ball around a field and thinking that that's entertainment. Well, those guys are, extremely wealthy dudes throwing a ball around a field that we're idling when we should be idling our families and something else. And so you have time. Just set your priorities. Do you want to be a better person, or do you want to be, a more valuable pay-per-view subscriber?
Yes.
Choose,
Said very
right? I
well.
mean,
Said very well. I have a an acronym I use called TPA where I train on that topic. But you're talking about like, well, who has more time? Billionaires have the same amount of time you have in a day. Most famous billionaire lately has been Elon Musk. I'm not uh making declarations if I think he's a world savior or maybe he's, this is
a bastion of
dancing
free
with
speech. Yeah.
well, or is he is he a what's that outwitting the devil? I'm not making a case either way, but I'm going to cite him because he's the only one billionaire that I checked up my process, which is a form of your GPS, which is he went to go recruit, but this is about 4.5 years ago, 5 years ago now. He went to go recruit away one of my clients' second in command, chief operating officer. They were born in the same country. They spoke the same like 4 or 5 languages or something crazy. And so he was full on recruiting her. Like he did gangster stuff. He flew in on his private jet. It's like us taking an Uber. And he brought a billionaire with him to try to recruit her. So that's really good. But he was contributing to the company that he's trying to recruit out of. Like their top talent, he's trying to recruit away. But while he's there, he's like, hey, why haven't you done this or that? And he was giving great advice. I'm like, he's contributing. He's like giving back. I was like, can you ask him these questions? I want to know how he spends his time. I want to know about his GPS. So my TPA, and I checked up on it. And this is what he told her. He does indeed have 5 direct reports at that time he did. He meets with his time chunking mechanism goes in increments of 30. So he speaks to them for 15 minutes. If he's on a Zoom while he's on a plane on Starlink, however he does it, I don't know. But after the 15 minutes, he stops and you say you do it every hour. He does it within the hour this way. He stops and you can call it contemplation. You can call it prayer, whatever your dogma allows you to call it. I
Yeah.
just call it TPA, think, plan, act. Like take the time to sit in that space so you can drop into your intentionality. So he sits alone and thinks through that, and he'll journal, document in some way, shape, or form, and hand it off to his assistant. So he spends 15 minutes alone to be intentional after each one of his 5 direct report meetings. So that's how that incorporates for him. He does that after every major meeting. So it's good to hear that you do that. How are you doing it? Oh, by the way, I got a little alarm that popped up on my computer screen. Do you got a meeting right now, by the way? Did you just have an alarm pop up?
I did.
Yeah, mine
Good.
too. So, what I'll do is I'll ask you on a future session, hey, how do you specifically do your GPS? Yet, I want to thank you for taking the time to, share these stories. I hope it's within the framework of acceptable to you because I don't like the normal, hey, tell me about your life story. I like to just organically uncover
Yeah,
things
no
most people
doubt,
don't
man.
ask. So,
No, for sure.
you're a great man. You're contributing to people and your children. You do the right thing. That's why I wanted to capture a little magical moment. Everything you shared today, is it acceptable if I shared it with others in the way that you
Totally.
shared it, even maybe repurpose the video?
Totally.
All right,
Yeah,
because
sure.
because you said you never shared that one story, and if you don't want Dave to uncover that on Ted's
No, it's
YouTube
fine.
channel
I mean, it was
accidentally.
again, it was a great inflection point for me, and it was what I needed to know at that time to confirm that I was meant to do more than restaurants, and I needed to make impact. And again, like that was 15 years ago, right?
Yeah,
Like that was a long time ago. And now it's like the fruits of those labors, like we're starting to really like do it, right? And
yeah,
now, our new marketplace and social commerce and decentralized economies, like what did I know about decentralized economies and building a parallel? I didn't know nothing, but they were all like, it was just building blocks along the journey. And you just gotta, again, my GPS is plugged in on my lap. Like I want to hear my father say, "Good and faithful slave," and that's it. And so, like, how do I get there? Like that's my destiny. That's what I'm plugged into. That's where I
every
want to go.
day.
That's it. That's where I want to go. So
Where am I going next? I love it. Truly free market. Is that the next disruption
yeah,
you have?
we just launched it. It's doing incredible.
Nice.
Yeah. So truly free home, truly free market is that's this is the field in which I'm plowing.
Well, I hope and I'm certain God's going to continue blessing Truly Free and all that you're doing for people in society. So thank you for being that entrepreneur's
Yeah.
made such a powerful impact. Thank you again for being here today and appreciate you, my friend.
Thanks, Ted. Bless you, man.
Even catch you on flip side.
Peace.
Thanks, man.